I would like to open the session. This panel, you meet the masters here. You may have some questions on any subject related to publishing. And after answering your questions, we will continue an example journal audit in order that you can check your journal according to that audit, and you may think to revise some parts of your journal. Now, please ask your questions. We begin with the questions. Is there any question? Please.
I am the editor of the Trakya University Journal of Nature Sciences. We know very good standards, criteria, to be good journalists. But such a small journals, if apply all criteria in their own journal, some low-quality authors will not submit their publications, manuscript to journal. This is a risk, and my question is, how can we apply all this high standard to our journal? I mean, how percentage, 100% or no person? What you prefer in first stage, at least?
I think that's a very relevant question. If you are a smaller journal operating on the periphery, or like my journal, you know, I'm in the UK, I'm supported by a good organisation, but I was a small journal, I am a small journal, but really struggling when I took over. I think you have to apply the criteria 100%, but you need to make it clear that as editors, you are willing to work with the authors, you're willing to spend a little bit of extra time with the authors to help the authors to conform to your standards. So whereas when you're submitting to one of the high-ranking journals like Lancet, Cell, Annals of Botany, they will not accept anything less than 100%. If it's less than 100%, they reject it. As a small journal, what you say is, when we publish, we will be publishing at 100% quality. But we are willing to accept a lower quality on the basis that you, the author, are willing to work with us to reach 100%. Because if you are not willing, then we will reject you. We can only accept at the end 100% quality. But we are willing to take things in at lower quality so we can work with you. We can help you reach 100%. And it's something that I've had to do. A lot of rewriting, working with authors, encouraging authors, asking authors to do extra work. But on the basis that I will not compromise the quality of what I publish at the end. I agree.
Please.
I also have a question. I'm editor of Social Science Journal, and since this year I started working with that journal to promote journal from my university from another field, and I noticed that journal, for example, from the field of physics, 10 times more successful can more quickly run to success than social science journals. Is there some balance, and did you see the same in European journals? For example, Journal of my university for Journal for Physics already in Web of Science for less than 8 months. So they're more powerful because they're more fitting, because they have more valuable results than in social science. For example, they're writing about collider or nanotechnology or something like this, and they are taken and they are accepted and they're interesting. What to do in social science field? Maybe you have some tips or advice.
As a social science journal myself, I sympathise. I have no evidence at all, but my intuition would tell me that yes, it is easier if you're a pure or applied science in the STM area to be indexed because you can show more quantifiable results. It's slightly harder in social science, but I have no evidence of this. I am extremely biased and I have a conflict of interest for my opinion. Anna, as you're on the STM side, what is your opinion?
Well, I agree. I think that different fields have different metabolism, so to say. In some fields you have a lot of production of lots of good data, and there are not enough journals to publish all of that. So it's logical that in that field every new journal will be successful because people look for good outputs. Whereas in social sciences and humanities, you also have to take into account that their articles are probably not the only way of communicating science. People write books, chapters in books, and conferences. I know that in computer information science, conference proceedings are worth more than actual papers, and they are peer-reviewed and then stricter selection of conference papers. Citation in social science and humanities goes a different way. It's much slower. They cannot get citations in 2 years, but much longer time, over much longer time. So I think these are the reasons why journals in social science and humanities cannot be measured in the same way as journals from hard sciences, to say, because they have a different life in a way, and a different way of communicating results.
Hi, I'm an English editor of Journal of Balkan Research Institute of our university, and I have actually one comment and one question. I think because we are receiving a number of articles in Turkish and relatively less in English, isn't it a good idea to have extended abstract in English for our issues? I think this may help also for us getting indexed at the Thomson Reuters and Scopus, I think, in the future. And it's good that we have recently been accepted at the SG of Thomson Reuters. It's good for our journal. This happened last week. And this can also be mimicked by other Turkish journals, that because we print generally in Turkish, to have an extended like 1,000, 2,000 word abstract in English. My second question is that, I mean, we in academia in Turkey, there's a kind of a thought that if you print exclusively in English and stop publishing in Turkish, will 90% help you to get indexed by Social Citation Index or Scopus in the future. Does this have a kind of answer? Is it correct that publishing in English only really helps for getting indexed and getting more popular in your, because we are a journal which print, we publish only about the Balkans. We are quite thematic, and whatever is related we can publish in social sciences. This is my question. Should we stop publishing in Turkish and start in English, which is quite a bit risky, because if you don't receive so much good quality English manuscripts, then you have a big problem of publishing it regularly, which is really a negative thing for your journal. How can we cope with this problem? Shall we continue to publish in both languages, or shall we stop sometimes in the future and start publishing only in English? Thank you very much.
Well, my first question back to you would be, what is the aim and the vision of your journal? What is it you want the journal to achieve? And if you want to achieve greater understanding of Balkan culture, then I would argue you need to be publishing in local languages, not in English. So, however, if you want to get indexed, the extended abstract in English that you mentioned is a good idea. If you have a lot of money, maybe, if you had a lot of money, the German medical journal, General Medical Journal, faced exactly the same problem. They wanted to publish articles which benefited German doctors, and therefore they wanted to publish in the German language. But they realized that publishing in the German language meant that they lost citations for the research because the international language is English. So they split the journal into German and English. So they effectively have two journals. They're linked, but two journals. And all the German language articles are translated into English. So they have an English language version and a German language version. But any article which is submitted in English is not translated into German. So the journals are splitting. And they did it that way, so they said if authors want to write in German, we have German language. But if they want to write in English, we have English language. So the journal is splitting, but that takes a lot of money. Translation is very expensive. But I would say if your vision is Balkan culture, then you should be publishing in local languages. But extended English abstracts are good. And the other thing is also to think of the future. Automated translation systems at the moment, like Google Translate, are crude, but just about acceptable for a reader. Just about. But they are crude. You disagree, and you're right to disagree from detail, but crudely they work sufficiently so that somebody can get the gist of something. In the future, they are going to get much better. So if you're thinking 20 years in the future, I would expect the automated translation systems to be good enough to work in different languages so that this won't be a problem in the future, but it is now.
If I can just say, I agree with so one idea is you publish a bilingual journal. You have articles in Turkish and English, and you can say English is the indexable version, and that's that, and you can apply with the English translation. The second version is what the German Deutsches Abstract does, and also the Danish medical journals. They have their Danish journal in Danish, but they have Danish medical journals that publishes research and kind of higher quality research papers in English, whereas their Danish journal is more with professional papers, and so on and so on. So the index version is the English version. One could argue now in the 20 years until the Google Translate will be like in a Facebook where it says translate this, so you can see what's going on. The other argument for English could be, yes, but we want to present Balkan culture to the world. So it's better that it's in English because then it would be better understood and used, and it will be more visible. So you can have arguments both for publishing in the local language and also for publishing in English. Depends on, as you said in the beginning, what's the aim of the journal. And then, of course, how much human and financial effort can you put in.
And also, research is done by the money from the society. So the society should learn the results of such research. And it is important then to publish in local language, especially for social sciences. Any other question? May I ask you a question? Oh, yeah, okay.
Hello, this is Ali from OX Publishing. Our question is regarding social media. How important do you think that a journal should be on there? And what are your suggestions regarding the management of those outlets? Do you suggest that the journal forms a team of people who works around that, or do you have any other examples on how you manage your journal's social media presence?
Do you do social media, Anna? Okay, so one very successful journal with no social media We believe in social media. The main route we use is Twitter, and I do the Twitter. So I tweet about the articles. I discovered a trick about it, is that I go into Twitter about, I shouldn't tell you this, this is a secret, don't tell anybody. But I go into Twitter about maybe once or twice a month, and I write all my tweets about all the articles we've recently published, and then I schedule them all. So while I'm here, people back in the UK think I'm still madly tweeting. So if you were following me today, I hope you were very impressed by all the tweets I managed to get out during the time when I was actually talking, because I schedule the tweets to go out. So that manages it for me. With most editorial groups, if they want to work on social media, I normally advise that they appoint a member of the editorial team purely to be their social media editor. Quite often an early career researcher is a good person, or a PhD student, and ask them to keep a blog or set up Twitter or Facebook or some other social media. It depends on your journal though. In reply to your question, does every journal need a social media outlet? It does depend on the journal. Some journals don't. In our area, I believe we do, because of our community, because our community uses Twitter a lot, and I get quite a lot of conversation through our account. So it does depend on the journal and on the community. So not needed for every journal, but for some journals it can be very useful, and a good way of reaching outside your immediate research community to try to encourage readership and interest from other groups.
It depends on the social media, because, for example, Twitter is not popular in some countries. I don't know how it is in Turkey. Turkey, yeah. So it depends. I know that Twitter is kind of good for middle-aged researchers, but young people, for example, don't Twitter. They are on whatever, Snapchat or Instagram. Not Facebook is for all people. So it's changing so much that one would have to kind of follow constantly the developments in social media. But it depends, at this moment, for example, for us, social media would just mean that we get more submissions that we don't want. And it is just more work to reject them at the pre-submission stage, and because we accept so little that what we get is enough. So it all depends.
But for us, social media isn't to encourage authors particularly, it's to talk to readers and to get readers in to talk about our articles, and mostly so that I can get abused for publishing articles with controversial topics. I like a good argument on Twitter.
What about publishing old research? Let's say that we published and we did a research 10 years ago, but we didn't submit it to any journal, and we decided to send it to a journal. Can an editor accept such an old work?
First of all, as an editor, I would commend the authors to mention when the research was done, because very often you receive a paper and then they don't say when and where the research was done. And in some areas it really doesn't matter, but in some areas can make it obsolete. If it is an epidemiological study from 10 years ago, could be relevant only if it's compared to what is today. But for some research questions, it really doesn't matter when the study was done. So yes, I think it's individual decision depending on the quality and the research question.
What about what is the studies and the studies with negative results?
Replication has become a big word in the sciences, especially in social sciences, in psychology. So now they are all about replication, because there were studies recently, I think there was a paper in Science where they replicated, I think 20 or something studies in psychology that were seminal studies. So they determined the practice of psychiatry. They put the theoretical dogmas, and they couldn't replicate them. They could replicate only a few out of 20-something studies. So the question of replicability is important, and now replication of studies is something that journals are starting to encourage in order to kind of confirm the validity of the published research, so that there is no waste. So it's not considered waste if you repeat someone's study. It's kind of replication that if you get similar results, that strengthens this theoretical model or a practical model. So this is becoming more important. And again, negative results are should also be published, especially in some areas of science. I think it's also studies show that they are not published, not only in medicine, which we know the problem, where we know the problem, but also in psychology. Lots of studies remain unpublished. So again, it's a movement towards decreasing this waste in research, so that people don't do studies again if some studies show that it don't work. So again, the culture in scientific communication and in publishing is changing slowly, but it's changing.
If I could just add that, within the social science area, our question for every article that's submitted is, does this add to our knowledge? And if it doesn't add to our knowledge because what you've discovered, what you did 10 years ago has been done since, we wouldn't bother considering it. But if we felt it was relevant to today, then we would consider it. We would say it's to do with the relevance to today rather than historical interest.
Any other question? Please.
I'm the editor of Journal of Balkan Research Institute. How should we deal with appeals from the authors? What are your suggestions? Appeals from the authors.
If we were in the UK,
Correct.
I'd say a very big glass of wine and then think about it. If an author appeals, you should always consider it because everybody can make a mistake. And Donald Macaulay, that I run some training courses with, says that appeals are to be encouraged. He said it's good for an editor to get an appeal because it makes you reevaluate the decision that you made and look at it afresh. The general rules that we advocate for appeals is that an author is only entitled to make an appeal once, so they have to make a really strong argument that one time. So if an author comes to you with a tentative appeal, you would just go straight back to them and say, you only get one chance at this, so think about your argument and then come back to us with the argument. Then the appeal should be reconsidered by a different editor. They should look at the reviewer reports, look at the decision that was made by the editor, maybe discuss it with the original editor, and then the group should make a decision. So it should not only be the editor that made the decision, another member of the editorial team must be involved to evaluate it and then decide whether a mistake had been made in the editorial office or whether they stood by the decision that they'd originally made. And then once that decision has been made, that is final, goes back to the author, and the author is then told they are not able to make another appeal. Sometimes authors will keep coming back. I'm sure Anna's got experience of this. But you need to say to them at that point, we will not reconsider. If you consider that there is a breach of ethics, you need to contact. And at that point, you need to point the person to the parent organisation of the journal. So they can take a complaint up there. So the editors should only deal with it once.
I agree, and I usually do authors appeal because they think that reviewers didn't say no, but no, I don't think that in that instance, I should have to have such a complicated process. We have 3 editors that decide on that jointly on each paper. So if we think that reviewers had too many critical comments, regardless what they recommend and how it sounds, and that it's not useful for our journal, we would reconsider it again among the 3 of us, but very often we would not ask somebody else to make adjudication on what the 3 people thought, because it may not be only that we made a mistake, but it's our conscious decision that we don't want such a paper because, you know, we think that balancing the criticism of the reviewers and the importance of the topic for the paper, that doesn't receive a priority. It's not that it's not good, but it's just not, it doesn't have high priority, sufficient priority for us to publish.
So maybe there I could highlight one major difference is in our journal, and I believe in a lot of journals, it is one editor that makes the decision. And that's why I say if it's one editor that made the decision, so the reviewers, the editor made the decision, then if you get an appeal, you should involve another editor. But if you have editors making a decision, then I think that's reasonable. You don't need to involve anybody else because you've already taken the opinion of three decisive editors into consideration.
And we often disagree and then discuss it and come to a conclusion. So it's not like, you know, it's unanimous very often in such cases where we have appeals. So it all varies. But taken seriously and always replied in a polite manner. British are very good at that. But, you know, don't say, you know, you're not right, you know, don't come to me again. But, you know, say it in nice words. I think it's more appreciated than the kind of blunt, but true probably, language sometimes, but it's nicer to be nice.
Continue, so maybe you can need to ask some questions afterwards. In Turkey, there are nearly 3,000 journals, and Turkish government platform provides a platform for those journals and help them in the recent years. And also there is a Turkish index which are trying to increase the quality of Turkish journals. I also want to give our example from our university. It is the conclusion of this presentation, which I did it in Bucharest, was the main part was a teamwork experience. You have to make a good team and especially try to have some young colleagues to this team. They are very useful and give you energy, and you have to make some short and long-term work plans, work sharings. And this is the example of our journal, which is still the single journal among Turkish universities, which is accepted both in Science Citation Index and PubMed, MedLine, and had a great increase. And these are the submissions. We got nearly 2,000 submissions per year. But I would like to express again that to be indexed in important indexes or to have a high impact factor is not the main point. But the most important thing is to become a high quality journal through appropriate editorial process and publishing high quality ethical articles. Then the others will follow. And both colleagues, Professor Marsic and Ms. Smart, indicated that international community about publishing are very important, especially those organizations. Please follow those organizations' instructions, also meetings. They are very useful. And also trustful cooperation with the owner of the journals, especially in universities, is very important. And the editorial freedom also is very important that I should indicate here. Now we distribute this teamwork to our university journals. Now we have 14 journals. 4 of them are new journals. Among those journals, we choose 2 journals which are indexed in Web of Science in order to evaluate with the references here. The first reference is from Smart is published this year, Handbook for Journal Editor. And this is the website of this book, but I would like to inform you that, especially the Turkish editors, we have already translated this book into Turkish, and I think in 1 month it will be published in Turkish. And the second one is from the European Association of Science Editors Handbook for Editors. And here Professor Maricik's chapter is very useful for the, especially for the editors having a new journal. These are the questionnaire. There are questions about editorial quality, content quality, presentation quality, publishing quality, journal promotion. There are more details in the book about what they mean. And we chosen 2 journals, 2 Web of Science journals of our university. Red one is Journal of Balkan Research Institute, and the black one is Trakya University Journal of Sciences. And here we try to fill in the boxes. And you know the use of these tables, so we just want to ask you, we feel as we understood it, then how can we use those figures to improve the journals with those 2 examples, for example? I can continue with the tables in details, and when you like to emphasize some points, please do it also. Professor Marcic, you may like also to indicate some important points. For example, let's begin with editorial quality. Here are the chapters of this part, and this is the details of the first part. For example, those questions in red color, we thought that it is good to discuss on them. What can you say about them? Thank you.
So maybe how a journal deals with appeals is we've answered in terms of your question. And maybe if I discuss the copyright issue, one important point about your journal, and something that DOAJ will be looking at now, and also the other indexes, is whether you have a statement about who owns the copyright on the journal. And in this guidebook, you'll find that there's some details about what copyright means, but you need to say who owns the rights in the journal in its entirety, and then who owns the rights in each individual article. And one of the things, for example, I picked up in the Trakya Journal of Natural Science is that when you open a PDF of each individual article, it doesn't say there who owns the copyright in that individual article, and it should say that. It will either be the authors or it will be the publisher, so Trakya University, I'm guessing. And an easy way around for the authors is to have a byline that says copyright and literally the authors and then the publication year. But that should be on a PDF.
And that's the question. What if it is a Creative Commons license? If we just put the science or CC BY, that implies that the author has the copyright.
No, it doesn't.
It doesn't?
No.
Okay.
No. When an author writes an article, the author, or if it's a group of authors, every named author owns the copyright in that article. When they submit it to a journal, they need to grant the journal a right to publish. Mm-hmm. And in the old-fashioned world, you transfer the copyright of your article to the journal. So the journal, or the owner of the journal, then owns the copyright in that article. The decision of how to publish the article under a CC BY license or not was up to the copyright owner. So if I transferred, so for the Balkan Journal, so if I transferred the copyright to your journal, Chen, then you decide how you want to publish it. But in the CC BY world, what normally happens is that I own the copyright in my article. I grant you a license to publish, and that's normally just a tick box on the submission system that says, I agree you can publish it, and I agree you can publish it under CC BY. So the journal has the right to publish it in the first instance, but I own the copyright. And that means that if any of you want to reuse the article, you can reuse it because it's published under CC BY without asking permission, but you must always respect the fact that I'm the copyright owner and that it was published in this journal. So copyright ownership and the rights that the user have are two separate things. I train in copyright.
What about the, sorry.
Got confused. What shall we do then? Shall we give the copyright to the author, or shall we still keep the copyright? Because if we give the copyright to the owner, doesn't she or he have the right to print it somewhere else?
Right.
Or what shall we do? Because normally we have the copyright because we are the publisher, and the author should definitely get the consent from us to publish it somewhere else, a kind of permission to publish, isn't it so?
It depends on your publishing model. So if you're, as I said, the traditional old-fashioned model was that I would submit my article to you, I transfer copyright to you, you now own the right to do what you want with that article, to publish it in print or online, to sell copies. I, as the author, don't have almost no rights in my article now because I've transferred them. So if I want to republish my article, perhaps as a leaflet to sell on Amazon, I need to ask your permission. Under the open access world, what happens is I send my article to you and I give you the right to publish it, a license to publish it. You then publish it under an open access license, CC BY. Now what happens with that is that you have the right to publish it in the first instance, but once you have published it, anyone in the world has the right to take the article from your website and print it or put it online somewhere else, including the author, of course, and anyone else. So you can sell it, no problem, in print or online, or you can give it away free. All that it means is by publishing it under CC BY, anyone else has the right to do that as well. Which I know it's quite hard to swallow, but that's what the funders want. Normally I would say to people, publish under CC BY NC, which is non-commercial. And that means anyone can use it for non-commercial purposes, but they need to actively come and ask you if they want to do something to make money. Because I'm assuming that you would probably be happy for somebody to download an article from your journal and use it for all their students, you know, in their teaching. And I assume you wouldn't have a problem with that? Would that fit within your model? However, if they printed it and they wanted to sell copies on Amazon.com, you might be think, hang on a minute, I want you to ask permission to do that. And that's under an NC non-commercial license. And all that means is I need to ask your permission if I want to do something that will make money. But the funders are going for the total open CC BY license. So they are really pushing for that. With Balkan culture studies, you're probably quite safe to go under a non-commercial model, because I don't know where the grant funding comes from, but you're probably okay for the next 5 years. But what it means with copyright is that you don't own copyright, but you have the right to publish it in print or online. The copyright ownership is a bit of a, I don't know, a red herring. Does that make sense? It's something to. It doesn't really matter who owns copyright. It's what rights every individual person has in the article. So they're two separate things. Sorry, I do run a day course on copyright because it does take a whole day to get through this. Sorry.
Here, the 8th line about ethical policies. for example, if we write that in our journal, we follow COPE guidelines, and when we get any appeal about this, we will behave according to those guidelines. Is that statement is enough for that?
Yeah, possibly. Do you provide a link to COPE? Okay, that's okay, because then you're covered. It's up to the authors to get informed about COPE guidelines, but it would be good to spell it out also. You know, we follow COPE guidelines, and you know, you can say these are the specific policies that we follow, you know, regarding conflict of interest, regarding this and that, you know, funding and so on, because it's better for your authors to read it at your site than to get only the link. But on the other hand, we know that authors don't read instructions to authors very often in detail. So especially when they're faced with long instructions for authors or guidance for authors, they just give up and don't read. So they will read more about submission system, how to submit a paper, than they know about policies. So, but it's good to have it there, because then at least you have them there, they're transparent, and in any when there are any problems, you can say they were there, and it's your problem that you didn't follow them. You know, it's up to the authors to then justify that they followed them.
What about publishing in your journal? Let's say submissions from the editorial board or submissions from your institution?
Well, I think from your institution, especially if you're an institution journal, it's logical. I don't think that you know you can. That's why it would be important to have external reviewers, and you can say, you know, our policies, because we publish from our university or institutions where everybody knows everybody, we use external reviewers for assessing the quality of articles, so that we deal with that bias, for example. On the other hand, it's logical that you may submit to your journal, but you shouldn't be the one deciding on this. And you can either, there are different ways. You can have somebody, if you have a larger office, you can have somebody who will deal with it, like a managing editor or something, and you will not be part of any decision. Or you can take it completely outside of the journal. I have been an editor that processed an article for a geographical journal because it was the editor-in-chief, and they were talking about bibliometrics in that field. So I got the article, I invited the reviewers to review it and made my suggestion for the decision, and completed the whole editorial process about this journal independently from this journal. So it's important that you have a policy how to deal with it, so that people know and say, oh yeah, the journal kind of published his paper in that journal without any peer review. And we also have a statement when we publish in Journal of Global Health. We say, no, this is the editor-in-chief of the journal to manage this potential conflict of interest. The peer review of this paper was independent and according to the standard practices by international editorial organizations. So we have a statement, and we follow policies of international organizations. But it's important that it's visible.
We should write it in our policies how we deal with such submissions. We continue. The second chapter is related with editorial structures. And third question, do you have the right editorial structure to support the journal? What do you mean with this question?
That was a very good question. When I wrote this, I obviously had something in mind. I think with this is really just saying, consider the different editorial structures that a journal can have, and consider for your journal, do you think you've got the right structure? So this is a self-evaluation to make your own decision about, consider the options, and then decide, do we think our structure is correct, or do we think it can be improved? So that's like an internal measure. Whether you want to have 3 editors-in-chief like we have, because we are kind of a
group of editors that make joint decision and we have expertise from different fields? Or is it who is making decisions, editorial board? So you want your board to be the persons who will make like a very close group that will jointly make decisions, or will you use the editorial board for peer review? It depends, what you want from each body in the journal, and then make a structure that is going to reflect what works best for the journal. Is that what you meant, Peter?
Yeah, but you can ask. Yes, please.
I have maybe three questions. I wanted major revision from the authors for a paper. I'm the editor. I'm the editor of Journal A. They did not respond for a long time for this revision. And they submitted their manuscript to another journal. And it was published in that journal. This is Journal B. But this is not double submission. This is not double submission. So, is there a scientific misconduct here? Maybe the authors sent their paper to Journal A, to my journal, on January this year. After evaluation, 1 month later, we wanted major revision, but they did not respond. On July, they sent their article to Journal B, and it was published in that journal. Is there a scientific misconduct here? Because it was sent to our journal. Is there a time for this issue?
I think it is misconduct because it was in your journal. You suggested major revision, yeah.
Yeah. Right.
So they received major revision and they sent it to another journal and published it in another journal without informing you.
They didn't inform me.
Yeah. So that for me is typical duplicate publication, and that's a misconduct. What they should have done is, when they received the major revision, they could have said, thank you, we don't want to revise it in this way, so we are withdrawing our paper because, we don't think that we can reply or respond to this revision. We are not satisfied with it.
So
they should have done it. So
they should do this. They should respond to me.
Yeah, and just sending it without, so they just use you to get good reviews and then send it to some other journal. To publish. Yeah. This is, I wouldn't say maybe it's not misconduct, but definitely detrimental research practice, for sure.
If I could just add to that, I don't know whether with your journal you have this, or with yours, but many journals have on their system, if an author does not submit the revised version within a specific time frame.
What is the specific time? Nearly, we maybe change from journal to journal, but
yeah, no, this is so. If I submit it to you,
yes,
after 1 month maybe, you send me major revision, and how long do you give me to submit my major revision?
Yeah.
And on my system, it's 3 months. So if after 3 months the author has not submitted their major revision, my system considers that article to be rejected. So if you tried to upload your revision, it would tell you it's closed. And so it has to be a new article. And so at that point, that article is effectively rejected, even though nobody has spoken to anybody. And then as an author, you could take it somewhere else. So there is that slight grey area.
Yeah, but that's when you have these fancy, expensive submission systems. But in many small journals, you wouldn't have that.
No, but even in small journals, you may have a period because it's not good for your average time from submission to publication to allow authors 6 months, 12 months, 2 years to revise. So you should have a cut-off period that says if you do not submit your revision by this date, we will consider your paper to be withdrawn and rejected, and after that point you can take it wherever you like, or you submit it back as a new paper.
So the message, take-home message from this is in your letter to the author when you're informing them about your first decision, you should have put a kind of a time limit and say, you know, it's a major revision and we expect your revision to receive your revision within the next 3 months, and after that time we will consider it as rejection or withdrawal. And that, and you can always ask for extension, because you know maybe something they go, you know, get sick or go on a holiday and say I need another month, and that's fine. But it should be clear. In this case, some kind of fault lays with the journal that didn't set this time. But I think more blame is with the author because they were not respectful of the journal. They could have said, okay, we don't want this and we're going somewhere else. They should have, regardless of the fact that they didn't have any time limit, it would be proper from the authors to inform them.
It's very clear now, thank you. Second question, yeah? Okay. After we published an article in our journal, one of the authors wanted to correct his or her name, but we also publish org ID numbers or ORCID numbers, okay? So he or she or the author wanted an errata from us. But during the publication process, this paper was sent several times for the author's control. So it's not our mistake, but author's mistake. Now, do I or do we obligate to make an errata for the situation? The author's ORCID number is okay, there is no problem with it, but he or she wants to make a correction with his name, surname, something like this. But it's not our mistake, and several times they first we sent the Word file of this manuscript and the PDF file, but they didn't realize that mistake. I couldn't hear you.
Sorry, their name was transposed or had a spelling mistake in it?
No, one of the authors had a problem with his first name or last name.
Oh, okay, yeah, so it's a mistake in it.
I don't know. Of course, you are. I think that you are not in any obligation to make correction, because especially because there is ORCID ID, so it's clear who the author is. But I wouldn't live with the imperfection of having it. It's such a small correction that I would honor this and then send a kind of a letter to the author, you know, saying that this is not the practice that should be in future and that they should be careful about their names. Of course, then, you know, there can be an argument from information specialists, does this warrant correction, formal correction, or can you just replace the PDF and then whatever version that you have there? You know, and of course, probably the librarians would want to have a formal correction. On the other hand, for such a small detail, like a typing error, yeah,
there is a very useful editorial from JAMA, but good for any discipline. And the editorial is called To Err is Human, to Correct Divine. And they set up a table of types of errors and how you should respond to them. And very interestingly, against COPE advice, they have said for minor errors, and in this case, because the ORCID is correct, the spelling would be a minor error. They said, do not do an erratum or a correction, or an erratum, just correct it online. But you should somewhere online or on the PDF to say the author's name was corrected on December 2018. Just add that as a box text somewhere. But they said correct it online for a minor error, and this would be a minor error. And send an email to the author saying next time, check your proofs.
Yeah, because, you know,
question? This one is short. What should be the frequency of an editor to publish in his or her own journal? Is there a percentage for this? For For example, our journal, we publish 40 issues in a year, and for example, in every issue, there are 25 articles. So we publish 100 articles in a year. What can be the percentage of editor-in-chief publications in that journal?
I don't think there is an answer. You can publish as many editorials, viewpoints, and
Other than editorials.
Yeah. But original research, I think it's again a kind of on an individual basis. Sometimes, I don't know, if you have a theme issue of the journal, you may have one or two, but having like 50% of your papers, I don't think that's reasonable. The problem is, when you're publishing not only editors' papers, but papers from a single researcher. I know journals that, I know professors whose whole career was based on publications in a single journal. It's a local journal, and like 70 of the 90 papers that he published are in one journal in Croatia. And then, we were faced with that in Croatian medical journals, and we didn't want to become like a platform for individuals to become professors by publishing in our journal, because you can publish 3 papers every year, and in 3 years' time you're a professor. So we decided, following I think a policy, I found it as a policy in one other journal, and we said, in order to give all researchers equal opportunity to publish, we are going to restrict the number of publications per author in our journal in the beginning, because it's not going to be later on, because once you get an impact factor and when you become important for academic advancement, everybody wants to publish and you have lots of pressure. So we said, okay, even to a friend, you publish 2 or 3 papers exceptionally if it is a theme issue, but don't send me 5 papers per year, because I'm not going to publish them. Because I don't want you to become professor on a single journal. That's not fair to other people, and other people have to have the opportunity to publish. So make it a policy and explain it. So we said, it's not because, we don't want to publish a paper so that you have to publish somewhere else, but to give opportunity to other people to publish. Yeah. So.
Yeah, I did the same at my journal during my editorship. For example, I tried to make the number of publications from my faculty to be less than 10% of total publications in a year. And also from the editorial board, it should be less than 5% of total papers we publish. It was not written opinion, but it is better to write such rules.
You can turn it into a kind of a good policy so that you want to, open your journal to others and not only keep it restricted to your institution or your group and so on. So I think it can be a strength of a journal and good for indexing.
Excuse me, can I add a personal experience with our journal? Because we also applied for Scopus 2 years ago, and we got the review from Scopus. It's quite related to what we are discussing now about publishing at your home institution, your home journal. One of the main criticisms was that there are too many people at the editorial board and the authors who are affiliated with your own university. It's like, it's quite local. If you want to develop this one, which was a message for us that it was not so good to publish, to have too many people from Turkey University publishing with us. That was one of the main criticisms of Scopus, which really makes sense, I think, for this discussion. Maybe it was their decision, I don't know, but this may help us that publishing, it's good to support our own journals, but at the end of the day, if you apply for indexing, which is quite useful for us, for our journals and for my journal as well, to be more prominent in our real and to get indexed by Scopus. I think we should be a bit more careful by accepting articles from our own university researchers. Thank you.
We can continue to editorial office. We don't have much question about publishing regularity. It is very important. Yes. And content quality. These are 6 chapters. Publishing quantity, quality, ethics. Do you publish at least 6 articles per year?
Why did you know, why 6 articles?
Why?
What's that?
I should say I first wrote this book nearly 10 years ago, and then I revised it last year for it to be reissued this year. And I now can't remember where the 6 articles came from, but there was, I think it was one of the indexes was saying this was the minimum number of articles, but this was now 10 years ago.
Yeah. And in fact,
so I apologise for being a bit arbitrary.
Because usually, I think that indexing organizations want you to submit at least like 40 to 50 articles for considering. So it can be more than 2 years of your publishing. So it all depends. And especially now, you publish at least 2 issues per year. Now you have journals, like we have switched in our journals to continual publishing, where we just publish articles as they come and put them in a volume, like PLOS. I think one is published in that way. So there are in electronic publishing, this is also changing. So this was mostly for print.
I mean, I think for the do you publish at least 2 issues per year, I think now that should be extended to at least 2 issues per year, or at least, how many, 10 articles? Yeah, or 12 articles per year.
As far as I know, Web of Science, for example, asks about 20 articles per year from medical journals, and at least 15 of them should be original articles.
This might have come from the fact, because this was dealing with all disciplines, some areas, for example, legal journals, legal articles tend to be very different, and you will get a journal where where an issue is 1 article. So they're more like book series than what we would think of as journals. So it might have been trying to make a compromise between all the different disciplines.
Yes.
But I now can't remember the real reason for why I came up with these numbers, so my apologies.
In social sciences, for example, 1 issue can be enough. But in medical sciences, at least there should be 3 issues per year.
Oh, it doesn't have to be issues. As I said, many journals are now not publishing issues, but have a continual publication, and articles are published as they come, as they are ready for publication.
So that means that you don't need to write in which month your issue will be published. So
Yeah.
you don't need to write.
Yeah, if you have that continual publishing. I think PubMed has a kind of info sheet, fact sheet about different types of PubMed Central. They have it somewhere on their site. What different types of publishing in relation to volume to issue to article, and article identifies as stages. So they have all these practices, because you have all kinds of different practices.
Chapter 6, author. Do you use your author to provide feedback to journal? How can get their feedback, and in what way?
Some journals, for example, Biomed Central, they have an automatic system whereby when the author gets a final decision, accept or reject, it goes with a link to a survey that just says, how was your experience with the journal? Is there anything we can improve? So they completely automated it for all articles. For other journals, though, it's a good idea occasionally to do a survey of your authors, just to say, was the submission process okay? Did you have any problems? And then you can feed that back into the development of your journal. So it is a good idea to reach out to your authors and get their opinions about their publishing experience with you.
Let's continue. Fair review policies, adding quality. And here, do your policies indicate how you respond to breaches in your policies? Could you explain this question?
So I sort of remember we talked about this ethics policy that has to be clear. You can just say, no, if we receive an allegation or breach of our policies, we will follow COPE guidelines or COPE flowcharts. I think it's best to say. Yeah.
Okay, we continue. We have talked about copyright policies, presentation quality, website requirements. We use these transparency rules of the for that. Do you agree with this?
Yeah.
And website requirements, print journal requirements. These are okay, all we can understand. And is there any here? Do you have a policy of how to manage articles submitted with open access mandates?
If you are an open access journal publishing under CC BY, you don't need to worry because you're automatically going to comply with any mandate. But if you're a subscription journal, you do need to be aware that there are open access mandates and you should have something on your website to say how you comply, or that, if you are, for your author guidelines, if you have any concerns about whether we comply with any publishing mandate or requirement that you are required to fulfill, please contact us. That would be sufficient, and then you can discuss it on a case-by-case basis.
No strategies, and that's all. Thank you very much. We have one more question.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question about plagiarism detection, because in our journal we use Identicate. It's a software which is designed to, detect protection. And also we sometimes copy paste the abstract, maybe the title and some of the paragraphs from the article that is sent to us. But is it enough to detect it? I mean, because sometimes you mentioned about the article which is in Chinese and then they send them to you as in English. So is it enough to detect the plagiarism, or are there any more strategies that you can, follow? I mean, in order to detect, in order to have a better plagiarism detection.
Yeah. I can start. Remember how I showed that Jane interface for finding the reviewers? It's also a good way to check whether you find similar abstracts, which can then detect plagiarism. Authenticate is good, but you have to know that Authenticate is more for universities and for students' work. Maybe it's useful for you because you come from a student journal. But journals usually use cross-check, which is Authenticate plus scientific articles from all member journals that subscribe to Crossref. So it's much larger and you actually detect scientific articles. But as Pippa said, you had a case where it wasn't detected in Crossref, but a Google search found an abstract of a Chinese article.
But just to say, don't feel that you have to check every article on every website. You use Authenticate, but if you have a suspicion, and sometimes there is just something that you suspect there's something wrong, then you can look elsewhere. But we have to believe that 90% of authors are honest and are not fabricating, because if we don't trust authors, the whole system fails. So we have to trust authors at the first instance. We can't treat every article with suspicion, but then you use good judgment to check everything afterwards.
Yeah, you don't want to say trust, but verify.
Yeah.
May I comment on that? Our government provides Authenticate freely to our academicians in the universities. And for editors, as far as I understand that, should have cross, because we mix it. That we think that cross-check and authenticate is the same thing, but it is not. So we need cross-check. I mean, the editors need cross-check to have more detailed information.
And when you look, I don't think, especially for small journals, it's not expensive because, you know, the membership in Crossref, because you have to be a member in Crossref, which you want to be because you want to have a DOI for your articles. So you just have to pay a little bit extra for cross-check, isn't it? Yeah, once you're a Crossref member. So it's really, it kind of pays to be the member of Crossref because you have to get your DOI, to get in a DOIJ, for example, repository or a database, and then it's just a small step to be a member of Crosscheck. And if you use any of the online submission systems that are not OJS but are commercial, Crosscheck is a part of the system, isn't it? Yeah.
It is on some, for some journals, because with Crosscheck, because you do have to pay for every article that you check, but it's 20 US cents normally to check each article, so it is a small amount. But for very big journals, of course, that can be a large amount. So some journals set a maximum number each year. So they say we received 2,000 submissions, but we can check 1,000. So for an editor, if you're being told you can't check everything, so be selective, but you can check about 50%.
Some journals only check what they accept before publication. Some journals check everything. One of the reasons why we introduced this pre-submission, which is on a different platform, is that we reduce the number of actual submissions so that we don't have to pay a lot for a commercial manuscript management system, because it will be only, the 20% that we actually send for review. This is what we have to kind of calculate into our financial plan for online submission system. We don't have to calculate all the 1,000 submissions that we get. So that's also something to think about for journals.
Thank you very much for this excellent panel. Our rector, Professor Antabagolu, is here. We would like to invite him to the desk to distribute your certificate to you. Thank you very much. We prefer to present you the certificate which was donated for your name to a forest of 10 subjects, and please accept this. And the same for you, Anna. You have 10 trees in Turkey. For your contribution to scientific publication.
Çok değerli başkanımız, geçmiş dönem başkanımız, değerli Cem Hocam. Biz yaklaşık 2,5 yıldır görevdeyiz. Pek çok etkinliğe imza attık ama yani en prestijlisi, en böyle can eline dokunan en güzel etkinliğimiz bu oldu. Sadece kendi hocalarımıza, Türkiye'den, Balkanlardan gelen misafirlere değil, online olarak dün 600 izleyici bizi izledi bu toplantıda. Bugünkü rakamları da alacağım inşallah. Bir çeviri yapar mı bir arkadaş? Hocalarımız duysunlar.
This was, thank you for you being with us here. We have been organizing for 2 years different conferences, symposiums here, but this was the best that we organized, and we are really feel honored to see you here.
Sadece bizim hocalarımız ve Balkanlardan gelen misafirler değil.
There are not only people here that are listening to us live.
Dün canlı yayında 600 kişi bizi izledi.
Around
Konuyla ilgili
600 people, they also watched us from our Facebook live streaming yesterday.
Televizyondaymışsınız yani.
And they were also
I am watching. Tabii bu prestijli toplantıyı üniversitemize hediye eden bir kahraman var.
There's also a hero who actually helped for the organization of this prestigious event.
Benim 30 yıllık dostum.
He is my friend of 30 years.
Sevgili Cem Uzun gerçekten konsantre olduğu konuyu her şekilde, en iyi şekilde halleden değerli dostum.
If he concentrates, he really rocks. He is really very strong and powerful.
Dergi meselesini ele aldı.
He really emphasized the issue about the quality of our journals.
Önce Balkan dergisini SCİ'ye ve şeye girdi.
First, he managed to become successful with the Balkan Medical Journal getting indexed by the citation index.
Hala tüm Türkiye üniversitelerinde tek dergi bu.
The only journal all over the Turkish universities who is a part of the citation index.
Sonra 14 dergiye el attı.
Then he started to deal with the rest, 14 journals of our university.
Şimdi yavaş yavaş diğer dergiler yükseliyor.
And step by step our journals are getting more quality and quantity.
Şimdi TÜBİTAK Lakbil hocamı keşfetti. Sadece Trakya dergileri olmaz, Türk dergilerine bakacaksınız.
Turkish TÜBİTAK Lakbil has recently discovered my dear friend, and now from now on he is also dealing with the overall quality of journals all over Turkey, not only for our university.
Bu işte muhteşem organizasyonu da o sağladı, üniversitemize hediye etti.
And he was the people who really organized this fantastic organization event.
İşte Türkler sözü sever, yazıyı sevmez.
Turks like to talk, but don't like to write.
Ama söz uçar, yazı kalır.
But the thing that you say disappears, but the thing that you write stays.
O yüzden hani biz yazmayı ve doğru yazmayı öğretmeliyiz.
For that purpose, we need to teach people how to write.
Bu konuda destek verdiğiniz için sizlere çok teşekkür ederiz. Burada tıp fakültesi öğrencilerini görüyorum. Daha şimdiden yetişiyorlar. Çok değerli genç hocalarımı görüyorum. Onlar yetişiyorlar. Bir de onları da hatırlatmam lazım. Tıp fakültesi öğrenci dergimiz var. Bir makaleye konu oldular. Dünyada da 18 taneden biriler. Yani.
They are one of the 18 journals all over the world who are of student journal.
Türkler biraz görerek ederler yani.
They just move forward by seeing around, by observing.
Güzel örnek varsa peşinden gider.
If they see good examples, they just follow it.
İşte Balkan Tıp dergisinin devamı öğrenci dergisi.
These are the followers of our
medical journal. Ben bütün ilgi gösteren katılımcılara tek tek teşekkür ediyorum. Bulgaristan'dan değerli misafirlerimiz var. Onlara teşekkür ediyorum. Bütün Balkanlardan gelen, sonuna kadar dinleyen misafirlere teşekkür ediyorum. Sizlere çok teşekkür ederim. İnşallah yakında tekrar Edirne'ye bekliyoruz. Sizleri de bir Trakya Üniversitesi üyesi olarak kabul ediyoruz.
Be accepted as a member of our university. You are always welcome to be with us here.
En büyük alkışlamadım.
Biz de size çok teşekkür ederiz hocam. Bizim ve üniversitemizin desteği olmadan bu organizasyonu gerçekleştiremezdik. Kabul ederseniz size de bir sertifika hazırlamıştık. Together with Professor Mark and Mr. Mark. Çok teşekkürler. Şimdi izninizle bu organizasyonda emeği geçen arkadaşlarıma sertifikalarını vermek istiyorum sizin elinizden. Çok katkıları oldu, yoğun bir emek harcadılar. Onları sırasıyla davet etmek istiyorum. Profesör Doktor Rıdvan Duran. Plaketi getirdik de arkadan sonra beraber olsun. Yine yardımcı Doktor Hande Güçlü, doktor öğretmeni. Doktor öğretmenisi Zehra Nihal Dolgun Altıntaş. Doldun mu? Tebrik ederim ya. Kusura bakma. Doçent Doktor Kadri Kıran. Toplu bir fotoğraf çektim. Doktor öğrencimiz Hülya Atakan. Doktor öğretim üyesi Elvin Dinler. Öğrencilerimiz var hocam. Öğrencilerimizden İrem Koç, Yeşim Candan Arslan, İrem burada mı? Leynur. Onur. Meryem Aslan. Zeynep Kaka. Arkadaşlar gelin toplu.